This is video 12 of the MBTI series, and today we are talking about ENFP, also called the campaigner. And just like every video in this series, I want to start with the same reminder. A personality type is not a label that defines everything about a person. How someone actually shows up in life depends on their mental health, their stress level, their experiences, who they are surrounded by, and so many other factors. So use this as a tool for understanding, not as a box to put someone in permanently. Now, this one is interesting to me personally because as an INFJ, I share two letters with this type, the N and the F. Both intuitive, both feeling types. But the E versus I and the P versus J create some very real differences in how we operate. And honestly, the dynamic between these two types is one of the more fascinating ones in the whole system. I will get into that as we go. Let me start with what ENFP actually means. The E is for extroversion, the N is for intuition, the F is for feeling, and the P is for perceiving. So this is an extroverted, intuitive, feeling, perceiving type. And the campaigner name fits well because these are people who genuinely believe in something and want others to believe in it too. They are passionate, they are expressive, and they have a way of making the people around them feel genuinely excited about ideas, possibilities, and the future. They are also one of the most social and people-oriented types in the whole MBTI system. Not in a surface level, keep the conversation light kind of way. They actually want to know you. They want to understand what makes you tick, what you believe in, what drives you. They are drawn to depth in people even though they move through the world in a very open, enthusiastic, sometimes scattered way. Let me get into the main traits. The first and most obvious trait is their energy. ENFPs bring a kind of aliveness into a room that is genuinely hard to fake. They are enthusiastic, they are expressive, and they have a natural ability to make whatever they are talking about feel interesting and worth paying attention to. This energy is real. It is not a performance. They genuinely feel things strongly, and they express those feelings openly. The second trait is their creativity. ENFPs are highly imaginative people. They love ideas, possibilities, and anything that breaks out of the conventional way of thinking about things. They see connections between things that seem unrelated. They come up with approaches that nobody else thought of. And they're usually excited to share those ideas with whoever is willing to listen. The third trait is their people focus. These are genuinely people-oriented people. They care about how others are doing. They're interested in human stories, in emotional experiences, in the inner lives of the people they encounter. They are the type who will ask how you are and actually mean it, and who will stay in the conversation long enough to hear the real answer. The fourth trait is their spontaneity. ENFPs do not like being locked into a rigid schedule or a fixed plan. They need room to move, to explore, to follow what feels right in the moment. Structure that is too tight feels suffocating to them. They are at their best when there is enough freedom to be responsive to what is actually happening rather than just executing a predetermined script. What are their real strengths? Their ability to connect with almost anyone is probably the biggest one. ENFPs have a social ease that makes people feel comfortable very quickly. They are warm, they are interested, and they are genuine. People open up to them naturally because they create an atmosphere that feels safe and welcoming. Their enthusiasm and ability to inspire others is another genuine strength. When an ENFP is excited about something, that excitement is contagious. They can pull people into a vision, motivate a team, or reignite someone's passion for a project just by showing up with their full energy and belief. In environments that need momentum and motivation, this type adds real value. Their creativity and willingness to think outside the box is also a strength that produces real results. They are not attached to the way things have always been done. They are always looking for a better, more interesting, more human approach. This makes them valuable in fields that require original thinking. And their empathy is real. They feel with people. They are not just intellectually aware that someone is struggling. They actually feel it, and they respond with genuine warmth and care. This makes them deeply supportive friends and partners in difficult times. Now the weaknesses, because every type has real ones. One of the biggest challenges for ENFPs is follow-through. They are incredible starters. The beginning of anything, when everything is new and exciting and full of possibility, is where they thrive. But once the initial excitement fades and what is left is the repetitive, detail-heavy work of execution, their interest tends to drop. They can leave a trail of half-finished projects and unkept commitments behind them, not because they are careless, but because their brain is already somewhere else. Their disorganization is connected to this. ENFPs often struggle with the practical, administrative side of life. Deadlines, paperwork, schedules, routines, all of these things require a kind of consistent, structured attention that does not come naturally to this type. They can manage it, but it takes real effort, and it is rarely their strong suit. Their emotional reactivity can also be a weakness. They feel things intensely, which is also one of their gifts. But in difficult moments, that intensity can come out in ways that are hard to manage. They can be hurt more easily than they let on. They can take things personally in situations where a more detached type would shrug it off. And they can sometimes make decisions in an emotionally heightened state that they later reconsider. They can also spread themselves too thin. Because they are interested in everything and everyone, and because they hate saying no, they often commit to more than they can realistically deliver. This creates stress for them and disappointment for the people counting on them. How do they make friends? Easily and often. ENFPs are naturally social, and they genuinely enjoy meeting new people. They are the type who can strike up a real conversation with a stranger within minutes and walk away feeling like they made a connection. Their openness and their genuine interest in people makes them approachable and easy to be around. The friendships they value most are not the casual ones, though. Underneath all that social ease, ENFPs are looking for depth. They want friends who are real with them, who can have genuine conversations about things that matter, who are not just performing a social role. When they find those people, they invest heavily. How do they behave in relationships? In romantic relationships, ENFPs are passionate, attentive, and deeply invested in their partner's happiness. They love deeply, and they express it freely. They're not the type to hide how they feel or play games. If they care about you, you will know it. The challenge is that they need a partner who can match their emotional openness without being threatened by the depth of it. They also need someone who can give them enough freedom to be themselves, because a relationship that feels controlling or too predictable will make them restless and unhappy. They do not want a partner who needs them to be a certain way. They want someone who loves them as they actually are. They can also idealize partners in the early stages of a relationship, building them up in their imagination before they fully know them. When reality does not match the ideal, they can feel a kind of disappointment that is hard to shake. Learning to see people clearly rather than through the lens of who they could be is real growth work for this type. How do they handle conflict? ENFPs do not like conflict. They are naturally drawn to harmony and positive connection, and situations where there is real tension between people are uncomfortable for them. Their first instinct is often to smooth things over, to find a way to make everyone feel okay again. But they are also not the type to simply absorb something indefinitely without saying anything. When something genuinely bothers them, it will eventually come out. Sometimes it comes out in a conversation that catches the other person off guard because the ENFP had been processing it internally for longer than the other person realized. The best approach in conflict with an ENFP is to be warm but honest. They respond well to being treated with care. They do not respond well to feeling attacked or dismissed, and they will shut down or become defensive if the conversation gets aggressive. How do they handle stress? When an ENFP is stressed, they often become scattered and overwhelmed. Their natural tendency to jump between ideas and possibilities can become chaotic when they are under pressure, making it hard for them to focus on any one thing long enough to actually deal with it. They can also become more emotionally reactive, picking up on tension and feeling it more acutely than usual. They cope best by talking things through with people they trust, by getting back into something creative that absorbs their energy in a positive way, and by finding some movement or activity that helps them discharge the emotional intensity they are carrying. What careers suit them? ENFPs do best in work that allows them to be creative, to connect with people, and to feel like what they do actually matters. Fields like counseling, social work, teaching, marketing, writing, public relations, acting, entrepreneurship, community organizing, and journalism are all common fits. They need work that engages both their people skills and their love of ideas. They struggle in environments that are highly repetitive, heavily structured, or where there is no room for individual expression. A rigid 9-to-5 with the same tasks every day in a corporate setting with no creative freedom is genuinely miserable for this type. They need variety, meaning, and human connection in their work to stay engaged. What types get along well with ENFPs? Types that appreciate warmth, creativity, and emotional depth tend to connect well. INFJs often make a natural pairing because both types share the N and the F, meaning they think in patterns and lead with feeling, which creates real common ground in how they understand the world. The INFJ brings structure and depth of insight. The ENFP brings energy and spontaneity. When it works beautifully. INTJs can also be a surprising but interesting match because the differences complement each other in useful ways. The INTJ brings the structure and strategic thinking that the ENFP often lacks, and the ENFP brings the warmth and human awareness that the INTJ often struggles to access naturally. Types that are very rigid, very detail-focused, or who need a lot of predictability and consistency in their relationships tend to find ENFPs frustrating. The spontaneity and inconsistency that feels like freedom to an ENFP can feel like chaos or unreliability to more structured types. Now, from my perspective as an INFJ, there is a lot I genuinely appreciate about this type. The shared N and F means we are often speaking a similar language when it comes to how we understand people and the world. We are both looking for meaning, both drawn to depth, both trying to connect with the human experience in a real way rather than just on the surface. Conversations with an ENFP who is tuned in can be genuinely one of the most engaging and alive experiences I have. I also appreciate their openness. They bring a kind of emotional transparency that is refreshing. They are not hiding what they feel. They are not performing a version of themselves for social approval. What you see is largely what you get, and for a type like me who is always reading between the lines, that kind of directness in the emotional space is actually a relief. What I sometimes find harder is the P versus my J. I like to know what is happening, to have a plan, to move toward something with some sense of direction. An ENFP who is very in the moment and very open-ended can feel unpredictable to me in a way that creates mild but persistent friction. Not because anything is wrong, just because our natural pace and need for structure are different enough to require real communication to navigate. The follow-through issue is also something I notice. As someone who takes commitment seriously and who expects the same from others, being around someone who commits enthusiastically and then drifts can be frustrating. I know it is not intentional, but it is still something I have to consciously make room for. How can ENFPs grow? Learning to follow through, even after the excitement has faded, is the most important area. Not every commitment can be abandoned when it stops feeling fun. Building the discipline to honor what you said you would do, even on the days when you would rather be doing something new, is what separates the ENFP, who just has potential, from the one who actually delivers on it. Developing more tolerance for structure and routine is also worth working on. Not because spontaneity is bad, but because some structure actually creates more freedom in the long run. When the basics are handled consistently, there is more room to explore without everything falling apart. And learning to see people clearly, including romantic partners, rather than through the lens of who they could be, protects them from the kind of repeated disappointment that comes from falling for the idea of someone rather than the actual person. ENFPs are genuinely some of the most alive and vibrant people you will ever meet. They bring warmth, creativity, and a kind of enthusiasm for life that makes the people around them feel more awake. The challenge is channeling all of that energy into something consistent and real. When they manage it, the results are something worth watching. Before we wrap up, I want to ask you something. If you are an ENFP, what is the part of this type that people most often get wrong about you? Or, if you know someone who is this type, what is your actual experience like? Leave it in the comments. I want to hear your real stories. Thanks for watching. If this video resonated with you, please consider hitting the subscribe button. I am currently working toward my goal of 1,000 subscribers, so I can finally monetize this channel and turn this passion into a sustainable part of my future. This is my unfiltered diary of solo living in the Philippines, and your support helps me keep this channel growing. If you would like to help out even more, You can check out the Buy a Treat for My Pets link in the description. My dogs definitely appreciate the love. Make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss the next update. Thank you for being such an important part of this journey. I will see you in the next one.